the best at every job in the UFC. Now, there's various jobs in the UFC, from commentators to judges to... There's so many jobs in the UFC. Today we're going to be taking a look at the best in every one of those jobs. So a couple of days ago we did the worst, and a lot of you wanted to see the best, so we're going to be doing the best. Now, this is basically the ones who ace their job, whether it be fighting or whatever what it is, the ones who ace their job in every aspect of it, and the ones who are a fan favourite in their certain field of job because, you know, they're just recognisable. Starting off with the best fighter, Alexander Volkanovski. Now, it is a job. Fighting is obviously the main job of the UFC, so we've got to get it out of the way. But Alexander Volkanovski, for me, is the best fighter. Now, I'm not saying he's the greatest fighter. I know a lot of you are going to go, what about John Jones? I'm not saying he's the greatest fighter. I'm saying right now he's the best fighter. He's shown the most skill right now. He's active. In my opinion, he's the best champion right now. Pound for pound best in the world as well. And he destroys everyone he fights as well. He's the best fighter. He doesn't just point fight people. He destroys everyone he fights. It's not even close. And he even gave Makhachev a tough fight at 155. And Makhachev's like one of the best in the world as well, pound for pound best in the world. That was such a big fight. I actually think he's top 10 greatest of all time. And I know I'm saying I'm not saying who's the greatest. I'm saying who's the best. But I think he's in the top 10 greatest of all time list. I think I'd put him at number 6. His resume is extremely underrated. He's destroyed and cleared out the featherweight division. And he's very, very balanced as well. He can wrestle. Obviously, we saw him against Makhachev, where he actually did well to wrestle against Makhachev. He wrestled against, what's his name? Yair Rodriguez as well. He's a great wrestler, is Volkanovski. He's got underrated wrestling. One of the best in the featherweight division for sure. I'd say he's up there with Topuria. It's going to be exciting to see how he wrestles against Topuria, who can also wrestle, but striking as well, he's the best striker in the UFC, or one of the best strikers in the UFC. He's yet to be outstruck. I don't know if that's a word, but someone has to outstrike him, and no one has been able to do that. So for right now, I'm going to say he's the most skilled featherweight skilled fighter in the UFC. He's active as well. It's not like he takes years or months off. He's active. He gets the job done. Finishes or decisions, no matter what. He's an insane fighter, skilled. I'm going to say that Alexander Volkanovski, as of right now, is the best fighter in the UFC. It's between him and Islam Makhachev. Again, I'm not saying he's the greatest. I know John Jones is the greatest, but there's a difference between best and greatest. And for me, Alexander Volkanovski, as of right now, is the best in the UFC in terms of fighting. Next, we've got referee. I think Jason Herzog is the best referee. He's barely ever got bad takes. You know, you've got people like Herb Dean, who used to be liked, but Herb Dean does have a lot of early stoppages or late stoppages. You know, Mario Yamazaki, with a lot of those late stoppages as well. Mark Goddard, he's a professional referee, but I don't know. Mark Goddard, he's up there as well. He'd probably be my number 2 spot. But I'd say Jason Herzog. He's barely out of controversy. You never really see Jason Herzog getting under fire from the UFC media because of like a bad take. He's never really having terrible takes. He's professional at what he does. Usually stops fights at the perfect time, or he does the right decisions. And I think he's an underrated ref. Everyone tends to big up Herb Dean for being this insane referee, but I think Jason Herzog is better. Every time he refs, he's never really having bad moments or bad calls. I mean, Herb Dean literally just elbow dropped Dustin Poirier after he got knocked out by Justin Gaethje. So I'm not sure elbow dropping opponent is the best look for a ref, but I'm going to go Jason Herzog. Underrated. Never really has bad takes or never really has bad stoppages or anything in the UFC. His moments are genuinely good, so he keeps it professional. Yeah, I'm going to go just Jason Herzog for the best referee. Never really seen him do anything bad. Next, I'm going to say that the best commentator is John Anik. Yeah, John Anik's the best commentator for me. He's up there. Paul Felder's good as well. Joe Rogan's it seems like Joe Rogan's kind of just lost the interest for fighting that he once had, you know. It just feels like he doesn't enjoy the sport of mixed martial arts as much as he once did. But I'm going to go John Anik because, first of all, the guy makes me want to buy Modelo. His sponsorship, so he's one of the best at sponsorships. You know, at the beginning of every fight, Modelo, brewed for those with the fighting spirit. He makes me want to buy Modelo, and he is the best at sponsorships. He handles all the sponsorships, and he's the best at it. He is simply the best. He's got the perfect voice for commentating sponsorships and things. Tayo, what's it called? Tayo Tires. I don't know what it's called, but the tire company.
I remember all the sponsors because of this guy. He's barely biased as well. Unlike people like Rogan and DC especially, and even Bisping when it's British fighters, John Anik's barely ever biased. I don't really see him ever have biased takes. He seems fairly neutral. And he doesn't really say a lot of bad takes either. He's never like he says something outrageous, or it's mainly Joe Rogan with the outrageous takes, or Michael Bisping, whereas John Anik doesn't really have any of those takes. He's just a perfect commentator, unbiased. And even when he does have bad takes, it is the funniest moments. The thing about fighters and having problems with what was it? Problems with their babies or something, or I don't know, issues with their babies. And then the thing about Amanda Nunes and eggs and stuff. So whenever he says like an outrageous thing, it's always one of the funniest commentating moments, and he keeps it professional. He keeps it professional. Doesn't have a tantrum on the mic like Bisping. Like when Bisping gets interrupted, he always starts getting angry. Like you look at UFC London, Aspinall Tabora, and Bisping was getting so angry on the mic when he was getting interrupted. John Anik, he's a very professional guy, funny, bit of a weird laugh, but apart from that, I'd say John Anik's my favourite commentator. Likeable guy as well. So I'm going to go John Anik for the best commentator in the UFC. Now, best arena. Now, I know this isn't necessarily a job, but whoever's selecting this arena needs to get a pay rise. I'd say the O2 Arena in the UK is the best arena. There's a lot of good arenas. You know, there's a few in Australia. There's the Abu Dhabi arena is not terrible. But I'm gonna go with well, Paris is good as well, but I'm gonna go with the O2 Arena in the UK. I think they've got the best chance. You know, you go to American stadiums and, you know, they're loud, they're cheering, but they're never really chanting anything. A lot of the time, UK have chants, you know, the Paddy the Baddy chant and the Tom Aspinall one. And they don't go over the top to foreign opponents that are facing English opponents. Now, what I mean by that is you see Brazilians, right? Whenever there's a Brazilian fighting a non-Brazilian, the Brazilians will go so angry for the non-Brazilian. They'll start throwing things like this, sort of throwing things at Brandon Moreno. They'll scream. They're going to say, "You will die." The English opponents will probably boo. They'll probably boo the non-English opponent, but that'll be it. Like they're not going to go over the top. And even when Masvidal, like if you beat a Brazilian fighter in Brazil, the Brazilian fans are going to go wild for you. They're going to go wild. But in the UK, it's not like that. Like for example, when Masvidal knocked out Till, there was never really any British fans booing. They just went silent. It brings a great atmosphere. Like the what was it? Aspinall versus Volkov. That crowd made it feel like a pay-per-view. That felt like it actually felt like a pay-per-view. And the only time the crowd's really bad is if the card is bad. I've noticed that. Like whenever there's a really boring card, like I'd say Aspinall Tabora had some boring prelims, so whenever there's like a boring card, that's kind of when the crowd is only really bad, but they are consistently very good, and I'm going to say the O2 Arena, when it's a stacked card and it's a good card, they're all the best crowd. And finally, the best Cutman. It's got to be Cutman here. I'm not going to spend too long because he's just a Cutman. He just wipes people's face with Vaseline, but he's got the best energy. You know, he hypes people up before fights. He's like a little hype man. He doesn't seem stressed. He seems like he loves his job. You just can't hate him, right? It looks like Mark Henry mixed with Derek Lewis. Oliveira's favourite fighter. Oliveira is his favourite fighter. He's just a likeable guy, man. I'd love him as my Cutman. Brings the energy. Yeah, I'm going to go commentate for the best Cutman. Not going to spend too long on that one. But yeah, that is my opinion on who is the best at every job in the UFC. Please let me know if you agree or disagree. And thank you for watching.